Do you want to see it?
Stop! Wow! No way! Holy shit!
Yeah.
Yo, I'm cute. Why am I single?
Today we will be comparing the camera capabilities of an iPhone 12 mini versus a pro camera setup worth over $3,000. Now first, a little background about myself. I am a freelance photographer slash videographer and specialize in all types of photography, ranging from sports, fitness, real estate, food, products, events. You name it, I've probably done it. I've had the iPhone 12 mini for about a month now, and I honestly never really used the camera that much, except for Snapchat or Instagram. But other than that, I never really jump into the camera app. There was never really a need for me to do it, since I already have a professional camera. The only reason I would use the iPhone 12 mini is if I didn't have my Sony A7 III. But still, I thought it'd be a pretty fun experiment to put both these cameras up against each other to see if someone can really tell the difference between the two. Now, a quick spec breakdown. I will be using my Sony A7 III, which is a mirrorless camera with the Sigma 24-70 art lens f2.8. What does that all mean? Basically, the lower the f-stop or aperture, f2.8, the more bokeh, depth of field, or in layman's terms, background blur that you'll get out of your images. This would be comparable to what you see when you're taking a photo on portrait mode on your camera, how you can adjust the amount of background blur in that photo. Camera people like to say bokeh or depth of field, and then people who don't know those terms just say background blur, because that's what it is, essentially. Now, looking at the price breakdown of the Pro setup, the Sony A7 III at the time of release was around $2,000. The Sigma 24-70 f2.8 art lens for the Sony E-mount camera system was about $1,100. But for simple math, we will keep it at $3,000 because you can get all of this equipment used for around $3,000. The iPhone 12 mini is retailed at $699 for the base 64GB model. I'm personally using the 128GB model, which is retailing for about $749 or $750. So $750 versus $3,000. Which one's gonna win? Also, for the Sony, I will be shooting in RAW and JPEG since I have that option. I want to compare the images straight out of the camera with no editing versus the cameras coming straight out of the camera from the iPhone. And then I want to compare the RAW files with the iPhone files when I add a color grade to them to see how well they do. Now, with all that being said, let me introduce to you guys my two good friends, Nick and Megan, for helping me out with this experiment. All right, today we are doing a photo shoot with our good buddies, Nick.
Hello.
And
Hi.
Megan. You guys ready for some fun?
Yes.
Let's do it. Give me a high five. All right, so I just pulled up both the images. One of these are the Sony's JPEG, and the other one is the iPhone 12 mini's HEIC format. Now keep in mind, these are straight out of camera, no editing has been done. This is what the camera produced with the settings inside. With the iPhone, it was shot in portrait mode, and all the Sony images were shot at f2.8 aperture. And then I just manually dialed in the settings to get the right exposure. So after looking at these two images, go ahead and pause the video, just take a good look at them, and then think to yourself, which one's which? Is the one on the left the Sony or the iPhone? Is the one on the right the Sony or the iPhone? And I'll tell you which one is which in about 3, 2, 1. Yes, the one on the left is the Sony, and the one on the right is the iPhone. The reason I think you could tell which one's the Sony is because with pro cameras, with mirrorless cameras, DSLRs, the photographer is the one who is responsible for exposing the subject's face. So in this case, we were shooting around 6 p.m. The sun was still a little high, so you could tell in their faces that it was a little harsh, and I had to expose for this side of the face so that the highlights wouldn't be too harsh. With the iPhone's computational powers, they're able to expose a little bit better for the highlights and bring that back up. But you can also tell when you zoom in too much, the image does start to break down. This is about 24 megapixels on the Sony A7 III. So you can zoom in a lot further without losing that much quality. But overall, they both look good. And from first glance, you probably couldn't tell if you weren't that experienced. All right, on to the next one.
These are so dope. That's so crazy. It looks so good.
It looks fake.
Yeah, it looks like you took this on that.
So that doesn't look like an iPhone photo,
No way.
but that looks like a real camera photo.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, these are straight out of camera, no editing's been done, nothing. I think it's pretty obvious which one's which, but I'd love to hear your opinions. So go ahead, pause the video, take a look at it, think about it, and 3, 2, 1, yes. The one on the right is the iPhone 12 mini in portrait mode, and the one on the left is the Sony A7 III. You could say I underexpose a little because normally when I shoot photos like this, I try to preserve their face so that I know in post-production I can bring back everything and still have room to color correct and grade. And it's still a nice picture, it's just a little bit underexposed. Whereas on the iPhone, she looks great. Right out of camera, that's a great image out of camera. Everything's exposed nicely for the face. You have that golden hour hitting her as a hair light, which is pretty cool. And then if you go to the Sony, underexposed, but I know for a fact we can bring back this picture and make it look amazing. So yeah, not bad. I mean, this was kind of a given, but on to the next.
On my left.
Can you even see me?
Oh, nice. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
All right, and here is the next one. Again, I can tell, but it's really because of the way it was exposed. It's obvious to me, but I can see someone else having trouble with this. Let me know if you have any trouble, or if this is really obvious, then let me know. I think both are still good images, and I would be happy with either one. So if you haven't figured it out already, let's do a countdown. Which one is which? 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Again, I keep realizing I put all the Sony ones on the left and all the iPhones on the right. I should probably mix that up. Things that stand out to me, his face on the iPhone image looks a little bit too, the shadows are too high. There's not enough darkness. There's not enough blacks in the photo. The same with the car. It's a black Tesla and it's a little bit dirty, but it still shouldn't be this lifted as far as the shadows go. Here in the Sony one, they look a bit deeper. In the iPhone, they almost look a little bit cooler, I would say. Now that was cool and all, but it wasn't really a test of comparing the photos because we didn't go into editing. This was really more just to see what they look like straight out of camera, no effort added besides taking the photo. Granted, it's a lot easier to take the photo with the iPhone in portrait mode than dialing in your settings in manual mode on the Sony. Of course, you could be taking it in aperture priority mode, but that's a whole nother story. Let's see what these files look like when you put a color grade to them, edit them to look like each other, and let's see if we could tell the difference between the two. Alright, I have pulled up a set of images that I edited in Lightroom with my own color grade and tried to match them as close as possible. With the Sony files, I was editing the raw files, which gave me more flexibility in post-production. And with the iPhone, it was the normal, straight out of camera image file. So, place your bets. This one, it's kind of apparent, but curious to see your thoughts. So, 3, 2, 1. Yes, Sony is still on the left. Will that trend continue? Stay tuned. Like I said, raw files are so much easier to color correct and play with, but you can still see that this was earlier in the shoot and the sun was still out, so the highlights are still a little harsh. Let's compare that to the iPhone. Yes, the issue of color grading iPhone pictures is that if you're not shooting in raw, the image might fall apart if you play too much with it. And this iPhone image is pretty zoomed in.
Oi! We're in the outback! This is the worst accent. There's a crocodile over there! I'm gonna catch it!
Okay, I have the next set of images. Let's take a good look at them, decide which is which, and the answer will be displayed in 3, 2, 1. Would you look at that? The Sony's on the right. Could you tell? I think this was a pretty easy one too. Now you could blame it on the editor in post-production, but I did the best that I could. Overall, I still think they both look good. Like, as far as the Sony one goes, these highlights are still pretty harsh, and I couldn't bring them all the way down. With the iPhone, yeah, it's breaking a little, but if you pull it out and look from it from afar, you can't tell. I mean, you can tell, but they're not that far off.
Reporting live from the steel stacks. There's been a murder. The murder was me killing that photo shoot.
Ooh, this is a pretty cool one. You could really start to see the differences between the two. I think these are both great images, but let me hear your thoughts. 3, 2, 1. Sony's on the right, iPhone's on the left. But let's look at these two. Like, what is the first thing you notice? To me, it's the distortion of her head. I think in the iPhone one, it distorts it to make it look a little bit longer, whereas here on the Sony, I was shooting at about 70 millimeters. The tighter the focal length, like 70 and upwards, tighter, longer, tighter, the more your subject will be compressed with the background. It also has a compression on your face. But yeah, that was one of the first things I noticed. But then after that, as far as the subject looks, like, she looks very crisp and sharp in both images. In the end, I still prefer the Sony, but I can see a lot of people being very happy with the iPhone one and being done after that. Nick, how do you think the shoot's going so far?
That was the best shoot I've ever had in my entire life.
Aww.
Wait till you guys see the pics.
Megan, thoughts?
10 out of 10.
11 out of 10 just to beat Megan.
All right, and for our last one, this one was really close. I think this is a good comparison to see between the two, and I think a lot of people would get mixed up, but there's a lot of key factors here that make it obvious which one's which. So I'll let you decide. Pick your best answer. 3, 2, 1. Sony is on the left. It's on the left, and the key giveaway here is the background. You can see these trees are a lot closer to him, whereas in the iPhone, they're a lot further away. Why is that? Because of the focal length. I shot at 70mm on this one. Maybe I should have shot at 50 or 35, but that focal length definitely brought the background closer to the subject, making it look like he was closer to the background. Whereas in the iPhone one, is far away, like where it should be. So maybe you could say the iPhone's more realistic, but other than that, everything looks really good. Like they are very comparable. No, that's not bad. I would say this is probably the closest comparison between the photos I took. So tell me, how many of those did you get right? Which ones do you think looked better? Let me know in the comments down below. So in conclusion, the iPhone 12 mini did a great job standing toe-to-toe with a pro camera setup worth around $3,000. And some of the photos that the iPhone took definitely made me think, wow, these were taken with an iPhone? So in the end, which do I personally think is better? The Sony A7 III. There's no competition. Being a professional photographer that uses a camera every day for work, it's kind of a no-brainer. While yes, the iPhone photos are great out of camera and they take minimal work and effort to achieve these results, the quality still isn't there for me. I don't think they're ready to completely replace your pro camera setup, nor do I think they're made to replace that setup. There will always be a clear difference in image quality when comparing an iPhone sensor camera versus a DSLR or mirrorless camera. And I think that people who use DSLRs and mirrorless cameras on a day-to-day basis are the ones that are more likely to be able to tell the difference right away. Maybe your average consumer might not notice the difference right away, but it's there. I think the iPhone cameras are perfect for your typical person looking for a good phone with a great camera in your pocket at all times, ready to take a photo of whatever's happening in your life. I've even seen a lot of social media influencers only post photos taken on their iPhone, and they're getting like tens of thousands, hundreds of likes. Because at that point, all you really need is portrait mode. But if you're a professional or someone looking to get paid for photography freelance work, then I would not recommend you to only use the iPhone camera. Think about it. Would you show up to a high-paying client's set with only your iPhone? I mean, I hope not. Maybe they're not that high paying. I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm going to show up with my equipment that I invested in and spent the time to learn to deliver the best results to the client. Anyways, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it if you made it all the way to the end. I hope this video provided you some type of value, and if it did, I would highly appreciate it if you liked the video. Comment any questions or concerns you have down below, and subscribe for the journey, because why not? Also, a huge shout out to all of you new subscribers who saw the first iPhone 12 mini video. That blew my mind. I did not expect that many views and support from you guys, so thank you. That's awesome. Hope this video was equally as good. Anyways, that's enough of my time, your time. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you next time.
Oh my god!
No way! The phone's locked.
Oh my god! I was gonna do that was so bad.
Wow. No, really though. Like, let me see it again. Wow. Doesn't even look like me.
Is it? Yeah, it looks like you.
God.